My brother didn't seem to be listening. I saw the rage in his eyes, which made me wonder what suddenly made him angry.
How dare you raise your voice at your brother? When did you get so disrespectful? Why? Is it because of that stupid job? Is that why you think you can now speak to him without manners?
I was shocked to hear her say that. But before I could speak, my brother pounced on me. I was beaten up mercilessly while my mom sat there, watching him and even encouraging him to hit me more. When he was done, leaving me crying and in pain, he stormed into my room, grabbed my computer, and walked back out. Before my eyes, he smashed my computer on the floor and stomped on the screen continuously. I was both physically and emotionally hurt. He dared me to continue the job and promised to do even more if I did. Both him and my mother left me on the floor, writhing in pain. Hi there. My name's Steph, and I'm 26 years old. I lived with my mom and elder brother until I was kicked out at age 23 because they hated that I was working from home. My father passed away during my junior school years. He was my best friend and the only one I could be completely honest with. My mom and I were never close with each other. She loved my brother more than me and never hesitated to show it. My brother was born just 1 year and 6 months before me, but my mom made me respect him as though he was 10 years older. I wasn't complaining though. I was respectful. However, my brother wasn't. While growing up, he made me feel his hatred for me every time. He would hit me at the slightest provocation, and of course, my mom would support him. It was unfortunate that no one was there to help. If my dad was alive, he wouldn't have done that to me. Not only did my mom see no wrong in him always hitting and mistreating me, she also gave him complete control over my life, according to my mom. Boys are wiser, and had always wanted 2 boys, not a girl that I turned out to be. My brother and I went to the same high school, and he was always watching me. He would slap me in front of my friends if he walked past and I didn't greet him. If he ever caught me talking to a boy, he would beat up both of us and accuse me of being in a relationship with the boy. My brother was huge and intimidating, so no one could report him. At one point, everyone refused to associate with me. My friends avoided me and boys at school stopped talking to me for fear of getting beaten up by my brother. I was forced into being an introvert, despite the fact that I loved being around people and talking to them. I wasn't allowed to go to school parties or even throw birthday parties at home. I mean, even if I was allowed, there was no one who would attend. I didn't have friends anymore. Meanwhile, my brother was allowed to do whatever he wanted. Whenever he wanted to throw a party at home, my mom would even help him with the arrangements and welcome his friends warmly. Time flew and I grew up. My brother and mom skipped my high school graduation and college graduation because my brother chose to have parties at home on those 2 important days of my life. But I didn't think about it. In fact, I loved that they didn't attend. I was able to speak to a few people and even get their numbers. After graduation, usually people search for jobs in physical companies, but I was forced to roam the internet for jobs when my brother refused to let me attend 2 job interviews. I was sure I would get those jobs, but I didn't have a chance because of my brother and my mom who never saw anything wrong in his actions. Luckily, I was able to get a job online as a marketer for a well-known brand. The pay was decent, and I was sure I'd be able to make something good out of my life with it. I had no plans to let my mom and brother make me rot away in my room. I worked hard enough, but that meant spending more time in front of my computer screen. I didn't mind, though. I had no friends, so I barely had anywhere to go. Now, life would have been better if my mom and brother didn't see something bad in me spending too much time in front of my computer screen.
Being in your room all day playing with your computer doesn't sit well with us. Whatever it is that you're doing, we demand you quit.
I allowed everything and obeyed whatever law they created in the past. But I wasn't going to let them make me quit my job. I'm sorry, but I can't do that. I can't quit my job simply because it doesn't sit well with you both. There was no way I was going to quit. I fed myself with that job and did every other thing. My mom had stopped feeding me ever since she came to know that I was working, but she continued feeding my brother despite the fact that he also had a job. My brother further went on to emphasize that my job was stupid, and that working online was simply time wasting and not a normal job. Time wasting? How can you say that when you made me get a job online due to your strictness? You made me miss interviews for no reason. Mom doesn't feed me anymore. How do you expect me to live? Huh? My brother didn't seem to be listening. I saw the rage in his eyes, which made me wonder what suddenly made him angry.
How dare you raise your voice at your brother? When did you get so disrespectful? Why? Is it because of that stupid job? Is that why you think you can now speak to him without manners?
I was shocked to hear her say that. But before I could speak, my brother pounced on me. I was beaten up mercilessly while my mom sat there, watching him and even encouraging him to hit me more. When he was done, leaving me crying and in pain, he stormed into my room, grabbed my computer, and walked back out. Before my eyes, he smashed my computer on the floor and stomped on the screen continuously. I was both physically and emotionally hurt. He dared me to continue the job and promised to do even more if I did. Both him and my mother left me on the floor, writhing in pain. I was able to call my boss and requested a week break from work. Fortunately, she agreed. I was able to get a new computer and also have the injuries I sustained from the beating treated. Afterward, I visited my grandparents. I'd had enough of my mother's and brother's dictation. I needed help to free myself, and I was going to go any length to get that freedom. My grandparents were wealthy. In fact, ever since my dad's death, they'd been continuously sending us money. My brother and mother hardly let me see them. The last time I'd seen them was over 7 years ago. When they saw me with the bandages around my head, hands, and ankles, and the other little bruises, they were shocked. In tears, I told them about how my family had been treating me since the death of my father. When they heard how my brother broke my computer, they were livid. They immediately went with me to confront my mother and brother.
She's a lady. If I don't discipline her, she's gonna start living a wayward life. And who are you to say that? A seer? I'm embarrassed to even stand here to speak to you. You think hitting her is going to make her live a different life than the one you stupidly think she'd live without the maltreatment? And you let him do this to your daughter? Shouldn't mothers protect their daughters? How can you sit and watch this happen?
Her brother is older than her and is wiser. I'm happy I left her in his care.
I can't believe this. You're both insane.
Well, me thinking they would change and respect my grandparents was just me being delusional. After my grandparents warned them against their behaviors and left, my brother and mom collectively designed my skin with fresh wounds. They both beat me up until I passed out before they left me. I was unconscious for over an hour. When I finally woke up, I was exhausted and in so much pain. I managed to grab my phone and call an ambulance after calling my grandmother. The ambulance came right before I slipped into unconsciousness again. I was at the hospital for 1 week before finally getting discharged. I had to use a wheelchair for 3 months because the injury they caused on my back was a serious one. After I got discharged, my grandparents wanted to arrest my mom and brother, but I begged them not to. They treated me very unfairly, but I didn't want them going to jail because of me. In anger, my grandparents cut ties with them and told them to never show their faces to me again. In response to that, my brother and mother stormed my grandparents' house. They were going to beat them up, but the guards were quick to rush in after hearing my screams. They dragged my mother and brother out of the house. My grandparents refused to let that slide. They got restraining orders on them, and I felt safe afterward. Once I was out of the wheelchair, my grandfather resigned from his company and put me in charge. I was shocked, but they told me it was what I deserved. I managed the company well. In less than a year, I'd impressed my grandparents and taken the company to a higher level. I was impressed with myself. Unfortunately, after 2 years, I lost my grandfather. My grandmother followed him 6 months later, unable to survive without her husband. It left me so sad and devastated as I'd gotten used to having them around. After their funeral, their will was read. They'd willed the company, their house, and all the money they had to me. As for my mom and brother, they got 2 old bikes which my grandfather used when he was younger. They were mad.
How can they do this to us? This is unfair. I won't take it.
You must divide your share between yourself and your brother. He's older than you, so keep it in mind that you're giving him the bigger share.
I found it amusing how she could afford to be so shamelessly entitled to my inheritance after everything they did to me. Well, I refused to give him anything. My grandparents had given the properties to me, and I wasn't sharing with anyone. Shockingly, my mom and brother sued me for withholding my brother's inheritance. Well, the case was dismissed, because they clearly weren't granted anything more than the 2 bikes in my grandparents' will. Since they couldn't get through that, they tried to break into my house to kill me and take everything afterward. Luck was on my side, as they both fell while trying to enter my compound on the fence and sustained severe back injuries while trying to break into my house. I knew they'd planned to kill me because both of them had knives. I didn't report to the police. No. In fact, I took them to the hospital. But I found the papers at their house and sold the house and everything in it while they were at the hospital. With the money, I paid their bills and took care of them. They both thought I was using my money.
I would thank you, but I don't see any reason to. I don't care if you treat us. When we're discharged, you must go ahead with the property division.
I said nothing and only smiled. While they were still at the hospital, I bought a house in London out of the money I inherited. I did that because I knew my brother and mother would try finding me if they got out of the hospital and realized that they didn't have a house anymore. Afterward, I sold my grandparents' house to a government official, knowing my parents would not be able to try fighting him for the house. On the day they got discharged, I left the country. Oh, did I forget to say I'd also cleared their bank accounts and used the money to buy unnecessary expensive toys, which I told the hospital to give to them on their way out? That evening after they got discharged, their call came in. My brother was in tears and my brother was begging for my help. I let them know that I was behind everything and hung up before they could say anything. Afterward, I destroyed the SIM card. Imagining the shock on their faces made me burst out laughing. Honestly, I wish I'd delayed a little to at least see their reactions. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more stories.